Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the best podcast for the business and marketing side of the sawmill, lumber, and wood industry. What's a woodpreneur? If you have a business where you make money as a woodworker, sawmill owner, selling slabs, or a content creator, then you're a woodpreneur. My name's Steve Larosiliere, and I started Woodpreneur Life, Acres of Timber, and the Woodpreneur podcast just for makers, wood entrepreneurs, and small business owners just like you. We're on a mission to empower thousands of wood businesses to grow sustainably and put out great products. Each week, I interview makers, sawyers, content creators, and 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs that know the wood industry inside and out. With topics covering everything from the urban lumber movement, sustainable sourcing and design, we'll discuss the ins and outs of how to grow, monetize, and fully immerse yourself in the woodpreneur lifestyle. If you're a hobbyist, a full-time wood business owner, part-time entrepreneur who wants to become a content creator, or quit your day job to pursue your dreams, the Woodpreneur podcast is just for you. Thanks so much for listening. Now enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve Larosiliere. Today's guest is Janice, also known as the Knotty Contessa. How you doing?
Fine, thanks, Steve. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. Hey, why don't you tell everybody about the Knotty Contessa?
So the Knotty Contessa started out as just a kind of a hobby thing that I wanted to do. My career is actually, my formal career and formal training is actually in broadcasting. So, of course, I made the natural leap to woodworking after about 20 years. So I started doing this as a hobby, and it just kind of snowballed and exploded. At one point, I was in broadcasting, and I did love my job, but there was things that were going on that were negatively affecting my mental health, and I had to kind of take a step back. And I just found that even just the art of sanding something just by hand or doing something by hand really, it helped calm me. And so then the business kind of started to take off, and COVID hit, and then the business really took off because people were home all the time and they were looking around their house thinking, like, I don't really want to change this or things like that. So, so that's when I never went back to broadcasting after that. So I've been doing this ever since.
That's awesome. What did you focus on in business wise? Like how did you sort of make the leap and say this is what I really want to do?
So again, it was more of I was looking for a hobby, but then I just started doing some things for friends and family. I was doing manuscripts and nursery signs and some other type of like home decor signs. In 2019 thereabouts. I came up with, or I created my own interchangeable welcome to our home sign. So it's the tall porch sign with the little changeable O. They were brand new in the market at the time. There was only a couple people who were doing it. And so we came up with a design. I posted it before it was even complete. It was just like a template. There was nothing painted. There was nothing glued down. There's barely anything stained. And I posted it in the morning. We went to my nephew's birthday party, and by the end of the birthday party, I had like 80 orders for them. So it was a little overwhelming. I kind of had to take a step back. I'm like, okay, now you have to fulfill all these orders. So, but even so, it is still one of my biggest sellers. One of the things we'll talk about soon, I'm sure, is we have a store now in North Oshawa where I live, which is just east of Toronto. And I have an entire wall dedicated to just the welcome to a home signs, all the different cutouts and things like that. I do variations of it. I do ones with family names, and it's the one thing that kind of started out and then set the ball rolling for everything else. So
that's awesome. And it sounds like as a former broadcasting person that you are very creative, like self-expressing, hosting, you're inquisitive. And so being able to make custom products to be in people's houses, it's probably like an extension of yourself, right?
It is. And like, you're always looking for what does the client want? Because again, it may not be what you choose for your house, but you're looking for that reaction. You're looking for that, like, oh my gosh, that's the one that I'm looking for, or that's perfect. And you're looking for that. It's that guttural emotional response that you get from someone when you know you've done it right. One thing I do love to make too is business signs, because you take a flat business logo and then you recreate it into this 3D piece. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've never seen my logo look like that before. So it's the creative part is being able to take a picture that's, 2D, it's just flat on, a JPEG or an SVG or something like that. and then you're able to pull it apart and recreate it as a piece. And I love doing that. It's so much fun. It really is. It's dirty. It's messy. I joke that, I took broadcasting because there was no math. But there's a lot of math in woodworking. So we've come to an understanding. We've come to an agreement. So, it was a big jump, but I really do love what I do.
That's so cool. So cool. So, so you went full time in 2020 or 2021?
Yeah, I would say about 2019, towards the end of 2019 was when I went full time. And then 2020, when COVID hit, that's when everything exploded. The problem is that at the time I was working out of my garage. And I have 2 kids. I have a husband. My husband was working from home. The kids were home. My youngest daughter wasn't even in school yet, so she was just around all the time anyway. And then to have that other layer of everybody home all the time, it was really hard for me to get work done. And especially with the amount of orders that started to come in around that time as well. So I started taking over the house. I joked that, my husband like looks at me and he says, okay, so what room are you taking over next? Because I had taken over the garage, the laundry room, the dining room, the kitchen. The basement was where I did all my epoxy pours and things like that. So it was becoming a little much on the house. So we started looking for a place to call my own. I wasn't too keen on renting just because I like the investment side of real estate rather than the renting side of real estate. And it's not to say that it's not a bad thing it's not for everyone. But we found a property that had the shop on one side of the property and then a house on the other side of the property. And now we rent out the property to tenants, and then we have the shop, which has a separate address, separate like a driveway and all that kind of stuff. So they're 2 separate units. But at least this way, it's an investment that we put in, and it's something that will help us in the future as well. So
that's incredible. So you were able to, did you have to build out the shop, or was the shop already there?
So I joked that the house has been around almost as long as Canada has. So the house has been around longer than Canada has. So the house itself was built in 1880. Okay. And then the shop was built in about 120 years ago. So it's just a cinder block building. They kind of eyed the leveling out, so nothing is level. Don't look at it. Don't don't look closely. It's an old building. So we had to take it. Essentially, it was a shell when we got it. There was no heat. The hydro was sketchy. And so we had to redo all of the hydro. We had to put in heat. We put in internet, which was the first time that this building has ever seen internet. And really just built it up from 4 walls and a couple of doors. And then it took us about a year and a half to do that. Through COVID, getting access to building materials was really hard. Our first delivery of lumber, like 2x4s for the framing and things like that, it was $1,000, and it was only 3 stacks high of 2x4s. Wow. Like, it was insane. Like, we're looking at that going, 6 months ago, that would have been $200, but now it's $1,000 for that. And so we had to kind of, we had to kind of slow back, slow down on building it because it was just so expensive. You couldn't afford to put everything in all at once. So we had to kind of slow down and we did most of it ourselves. There were some things that I wouldn't have done myself, like the heat, because that's gas and you need a certified person to do that, as well as the electricity. It all has to be, cleared by ESA. So it's that stuff we had other people do, but for the most part, it was us doing it. We did the drywall, we did the framing. It was, my husband would come in after working his job, come in and do drywall, like after school for, and he's a teacher, so he would come in and do drywall after school. And do mudding and taping and sanding and all that kind of stuff. So it was definitely a family affair to get it done. But once we opened, it's been night and day. It's so nice to be in my own space, to not have to worry about being at work all the time. Like, I'd come downstairs on a Sunday morning and our stairs downstairs open up into the dining room. So that's the first thing you'd see. So, like, Saturday, Sunday morning, it's like, oh, and there's work. It's right there. So it's nice to have
the separation.
It is really good to have a separation. And that's not to say that I don't do work at home. We still do epoxy pouring at home because, again, the heat in this place and the dust and things like that. So we have to do the epoxy pouring at home. I still do a lot of my office work at home, of course. All the paperwork and things that come with owning a business, that all gets done at home. But The majority of, I call it the dirty stuff, gets done here. So at least I have that separation. Yeah, and plus when we got the store, it got me a chance to get my CNC in behind because that would never have fit in my garage for sure.
So where you are now is also a storefront.
Yes, that's right. So we're in the workshop half. The building is basically split into thirds. So we're in the 2/3 part which is the workshop, and then the other third is the storefront. So that's where we have the laser in there, where we do like on-site engraving and like Yeti laser engraving, and then we have all of the products and everything like on the shelves and things. I also have other vendors here in the store as well. So they can bring in their products, and then it's just commission based. So I don't have to worry about them, worrying about rent or anything. I didn't want that. So it's just commission based, and then people come in and then they get their stuff done on site, and then they can just go home with it. So it was a nice kind of easy way to do everything all at once.
How did you market your business?
It was mostly through word of mouth, and I'm still finding that is my biggest way of marketing. Is a lot of it is just, oh, I went to go see Janice and, excuse me, I went to go see, Janice and the Knotty Contessa, and, her stuff is beautiful, and I got a charcuterie board, and she was able to engrave it for me right there on site, like right there, and I could watch it being done. Or even this morning I had a couple of kids come in, back to school next week here in Ontario. Yeah. And the kids were bringing in their Yetis to have their name engraved on it so that, it doesn't go walking. So like that is, it's the come in and have it done for you. That's what gets around to people. But it really is a lot of word of mouth. People drive by, they see the sign, they'll pop in and just to see like, oh, I've seen your sign. I just wanted to know, what you do. And so that's essentially where all of my marketing comes from right now.
That's so cool. That's very cool. Mm-hmm. And that's the one on 57 Raglan Road, right?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's in Oshawa. 57 Raglan Road, West in Oshawa, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what did growing the business look like for you? Like, or what does it look like?
It's keeping the connections that I have, as well as increasing the connections that I've already made. So it's that word of mouth. So one person comes in, they have a really good experience. They then bring their friend in. It's like, oh, I went and had my thing done. And then they do it that way. What I would like to do is more kind of the digital marketing as well. So I do a lot of Facebook. I do a lot of Instagram. I'm getting better at putting myself on screen. I joke that, the Knotty Contessa is Janice at 120%. Yeah. So whenever I do a video, it's myself, but I'm at this level, and you're just surprised, and you're happy, and you're joking around. And even on my page, I say that, I'm a sarcasm connoisseur. So that's where I'm trying to get reach of the people who would appreciate that kind of humor and kind of sell me as a brand as well as a service. So that's kind of where my marketing is. That's how it's growing. And I just want to do a little bit more of that as well. Yeah.
What's been one of the most rewarding aspects of having a business? It seems like, well, before you answer that, you seem like a risk taker.
Okay. So I have the sink or swim attitude too, where I know that it's like, if I don't jump, I'm not going to. And if you sit there and think about what you have to do, and then you think about it too long, you're not going to do it. So I'm also of the opinion that it's like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it. Like, I would say try. What's the worst that could happen? You fail? Okay. Try again. Like, try something new. So for the most part, most of the things that I've tried, they've been successful. A few things haven't, but that's fine. You just kind of say, okay, learning experience, and move on. Yeah. I don't dwell on the stuff that goes wrong. Sometimes when you get into your own head, you can you get into that really dark place where things aren't going well. And then you start thinking, you get the imposter syndrome. It's like, okay, well, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing? Why isn't things going right? Why can't I just seem to get this right? And it happens, and it happens to everybody. But if you spend too much time there, you're going to get ahead of yourself. You're going to get you're getting in your own way, and you're not doing yourself a service. You're not helping yourself. You just kind of have to say, okay, you know what? That didn't work. Let's just find something that does, or if it didn't work, why didn't it work, and could we change it to make it work? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's one thing you learned about yourself through this process? Like one surprising thing that you learned about, I mean, because, for one is I wholeheartedly believe that, like entrepreneurship is very much a personal development journey. The question was, what is one thing that you learned about yourself through the process of building this business?
Um, I need to get better at being not so stubborn. I knew I was stubborn before. I
Mm,
still am very stubborn. Um, and I'm kind of, sometimes
hmm
I have it in my head, and I know I say, like when you get something wrong, you have to kind of step back and, okay, look at what happened, what went wrong. But I'm still sometimes in the point of like, no, 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 this is how I want to do it. This is how I want it done. And then that's it. So you have to kind of,
hmm
again, get out of your own way to make it work. That is a
hmm
lesson that I have learning, and I'm still learning it. Every day it's kind of like, no, 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 just do the right thing, not necessarily what you think is the best thing. So it's, you have to figure out what's best for the business, what's best for the client, and what have you. So, especially with the machinery too, because, uh, there are some days where you feel like you can't get anything right. You can't get anything correct or something. And my dad used to tell me that when you fight with inanimate objects, you lose because they don't get mad. And it's like,
They
oh
don't get
yeah,
mad. Yeah.
they don't get mad. They
They're
just
not
like,
real things, but they're not real things. They're not real things. Yeah. Yeah.
that's right. So if you fight with them, you're going to lose because as a human, you're going to get angry. And machines don't get angry. They just say, no, you did exactly what you told me to do. This was your mistake. So it's kind of funny where I kind of, every once in a while I have to kind of take a step back. I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong here? Let's take a look at what's going wrong. Why is this not working? And some days, there are days where you just have to shut everything down. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to try tomorrow because today it's clearly not working. So we're going to try tomorrow. You focus on something else and you get something else done. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely being stubborn.
What about, do you have any employees?
I don't. So mainly it's just me. My husband does come in and he does some work here as well. Like especially like he's a teacher, so through the summer he's available a little bit more. And on Saturdays he'll be in. 9 times out of 10 he's here on Saturdays to come in and help cutting down wood or some sanding or things like that. Last semester I did have a co-op student as well, which helped.
Hmm
And I'm hoping for another one this fall, but we're going to see once they come in September, who's looking for which programs. There's one that I've already got kind of earmarked. So we'll
hmm
see. But other than that, it's basically just me. And that's one of the things where I also have to learn to give up a little bit of control so I can have someone else do some of the work. And I do need to hire somebody because I'm at the point now where I just can't get everything done. With the storefront being open, people pop in at all times. And you could be in the middle of something really important and you have to stop it because client's there and they're the most important person because they're right in front of you. So
What?
yeah, there's definitely times
Yeah.
where I have to hire somebody.
What are your top sellers, or what's the thing that you could sell all day?
Cribbage boards. Cribbage
Cribbage
boards.
boards, yeah.
Yeah, because I do epoxy cribbage boards and charcuterie boards. So I would say that epoxy charcuterie or cribbage boards are probably my biggest seller. On the website, they get the most traffic, they get the most sales, followed by usually by the welcome to our home signs because those ones are really popular. Name scripts for
hmm
like the wall, like those scripts for the wall. And then Yetis. Yetis are a huge seller. So whether someone's bringing in a Yeti to get engraved, or I'm purchasing the Yeti for them, and then we engrave it and then go from there. So so those are also the bigger sellers too.
That's really fascinating. I always used to tell people like, oh, don't focus on the small things, but you literally built a business selling small wood products.
Yeah, I
That's so
wanna do
cool.
more like what I want to get into is more business stuff or more corporate focused ones. As much as I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
doing like the home signs or whatever, those take the longest because there's not only the building of the product, there's the designing that goes with it. When you do a corporate logo, the design is already done. So it's a much faster turnaround for me to be able to say, yep, no problem. Here's your logo. Here's what I can do with it. And then, you go off. And then you can even do different versions of that. So there's little social medias like table talkers that I create as well. There's I call them key necked, which are NFC keychains. So you can put like an array of NFC keychains. You can do your logo with the Yeti, like the Yeti logo. The Yeti cup with your logo engraved on it. So you're talking about when you get a corporate order, there's so many things that I can do for them that's kind of where I want to go. And as much as I love doing all the small things, I love doing cribbage boards. I really do. Like I don't even play cribbage. My son and my mom played cribbage, and I swear that it skipped a generation. I don't get it. But whenever I create one, it's like, oh yeah, this is a really pretty board. And that board is going out, that no one else in the world is going to have that exact same board. No one else is going to have that same look, the same colors and everything like that. And that's what makes it really, really special. So I do love making those. I could make those all day, no problem. But I also do love doing the corporate stuff too. So yeah.
Cool. All right. So maybe let's switch gears. So this is a part of the podcast where, actually, you know what, tell us about your CanCam and why did you pick CanCam for your business? And the Aeon laser too. Like how did you arrive at that, and what was the learning time, and talk about the just the experience with CanCam?
So when I first started out was with a Shapeoko, which is a kind of a consumer-based CNC machine. It's a desktop machine. I had the XXL. Things got busier, so I got a second XXL. So I had two Shapeokos running side by side with one dust collector in the middle in my garage. When we got the shop, I had been looking at the CanCam for quite some time. Even before then, I had been talking with Simon and Liam over at CanCam in Bowmanville. And because I used to get my bits from them. I still do, but I would get my bits even from before I had this. I would get my bits from the CanCam guys. And so we started talking more and things like that. So when I got the shop, we started doing the layout, working with Simon, doing the layout of the floor plan here to try and figure out, okay, what's the biggest machine that I can fit into this space? And the reason why I say it's the biggest machine is because when I first started out with my Shapeoko, it was fine for a starter machine, but once you come to the end of the space allotment for that, you're screwed. Like it's a great machine to start out with, but it's small. Like it's a 32 by 32 cutting surface, so it's quite small. The one that I have behind me is a 4 by 8. So the 4 feet by 8 foot was the biggest machine that I could fit into here. They also had a 510, but that would have come out to about halfway through the window, which is also my fire escape here. So didn't want to cover that up. I thought it was kind of important to leave that open. So we decided on the C248 ATC. So the ATC is obviously the automatic tool changers. So I have 8 tools at the back that I can program everything out. And the machine at the back will go and pick up the tools as needed and then just continue working. So the CanCam was the more robust of the options that I was looking at. And I definitely wanted something that was Canadian. It was important to me to have something that's Canadian. I understand a lot of parts come from China, and I get that, but having the CanCam guys, right down the street from me was a huge deal for me to be able to say, hey, I got this issue. What do I do about that? And then they'll talk you through it on the phone to fix it. The Aeon laser was an add-on, so we were looking at the CanCam, and we were kind of chatting, and so Simon was like, well, what do you want to do with the business? Like, what do you want to do with your store? And I was like, well, I do want to do some in-house stuff. And so, my husband and I started talking, and he was like, okay, well, what about a laser? Like, why don't I just add that? And to be honest, it wasn't even something that I was looking at. When we first started talking about lasers, I was dead set against it. I'm like, nope, I don't want a laser. I don't want to be a laser person. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, just saying. But I have the CNC. I want to focus on CNC. This is where the stubbornness comes back in as well. I have the CNC. I want to focus on CNC. I was like, okay, you know what? Let's bring in the laser. I can do on-site engraving. So you have your charcuterie board, you have your cribbage board, and then you can pop it in the laser. I design it with you in shop, and then we engrave it. You go home with it. So I
Mm-hmm.
started doing that, and then it again snowballed. So now my laser gets used more than my CNC gets used, just because there's so many other things that you can offer people, and different services that you can offer people, with the laser than you can with the CNC. I also like rent out my CNC, so I don't have other people use it. I use it, but like I provide like a flattening service, so people will come in. Actually, I have somebody coming in tomorrow,
Like
for
for
flat.
slabs? For slabs?
For slabs. So they've done their own work. And these are hobbyists who have done, they watched the YouTube video, they tried their epoxy and it works, and so it's flattened and it's cured, or it's cured and they need to bring it in to be flattened. So they'll bring it into me. I charge an hourly rate for that, and then they get their slab flattened. I make a profit off of it, and they get to go home and feel good that they've done it. So that's where it's a benefit as well. So yeah, that's where the laser kind of came into. There were other lasers available, obviously, but because I was already with CanCam, and I liked the Aeon setup, I liked the usability of the machine, I decided to go with that one too. And I have a Mira 9, so I have the biggest one that I could fit into my shop at the time. So it was again, it's if I'm gonna jump, I'm gonna jump. I'm not gonna tiptoe on the water. If I'm gonna jump, I'm not gonna get a small machine because I know that very soon I'm gonna outgrow the size capacity of it. And when what is it, pay once, cry once type thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely paid for itself over and over again. I've also just recently, well, about a year and a half ago, I added the tumbler, so the rotary spinner, the rotary tumbler on it as well, the Lens Digital, the Pyburn one. So I added that on as well, and that's how I can do all the Yetis and things like that. So it's paid for itself time and time again. So it's one of these things. It's like,
So
okay, am I
it's
going to do
you
it?
do have
Let's
it.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You do have employees. It's a laser and a CNC. It's
yeah,
like
they're robots. Yeah, I don't have to pay them
they're
though. It works
robots.
out really well. So
Yeah. Well, they were expensive in the beginning, but they make you money now.
yeah, exactly. They're the
The-
one-time purchase thing. You pay for them once, and then that's it. So we're good.
And they don't ever call in sick. They don't.
They don't call in sick, but they have their own personality. That's for sure. So they're like, each machine has its own little quirks, and I'm looking at them like, don't do that. No, don't do that. But they have their own quirks. But once you've learned it, it was
Mhm.
it was a bit of a learning curve. Because between the Shapeoko, that was the biggest learning curve was the CNC. And then when it came to
Mhm.
the CanCam, it was okay. Now we've got this. I used to have to modify my projects in order for it to work on the Shapeoko because the Shapeoko was not as rigid. It wasn't as like reliable. And I knew that there were some things that I couldn't do with the CNC, with the CanCam. It was like, okay, no, we can go, like, pardon the expression, balls to the wall. We can get it done faster. You can get it done, much better. It's much more accurate and things. So the CanCam learning curve was more just about learning how to use the Masso, which is right over here, and then the Masso, and then the ATC. So figuring out, okay, how do we program all those different steps on the Shapeoko? Each one had to be a different tool path, and you had to change the bit manually and then reset it and then load the next tool path. So with this, it's just you put everything into the computer. Make sure you've got everything checked 3 times, 4 times. Like the amount of years that I've been doing it now, I know how fast I can run my machines. I know what the bits can take. I know what the bits can't take. I know which material can run faster, which material you have to slow down. And it was all about trial and error. And then
Mhm.
breaking a whole lot of bits and just making mistakes and just, I broke a bit yesterday. Like I'm still making mistakes. I broke a bit yesterday, and it was like, oh, okay, I broke one, and you're just like,
Mhm.
I got like 60 hours of use out of that one, so okay, just pull it the new one. You learn over time to have bits ready. Never be short bits,
Yeah.
or never be on your last bit, because that's when you're, have a project due, and you break a bit, and you're like, oh crap. So yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. All right. Well, this is a part of the podcast where you get to ask any marketing or business advice. Is there anything that I can help you with?
So I want to figure out how to reach out to more of those corporate customers. I've
Yeah.
had several like corporate orders where it's a lot to do, and
Hmm.
it takes a long time, but they are profitable. So I want to figure out how to reach out to more of those corporate customers. or business customers. So people who are looking for business logos and things like that. From the business logos I have done, usually every time I put one out, I get like 3 leads from that. And the reason being is that in say the logo is in a waiting room somewhere, there's going to be 100 eyes on that each week, and not all of them are business owners, but the ones who are going to ask, "Hey, where did you get that from?" And then that's where I get the lead from. But how do I get those people through digital versus just word of mouth, which again has worked really well for me up till now, but I want to go forward with more.
Yeah. So, I recently, I talked to somebody not too long ago that did something similar to you. They were in a different part of the world. And part of it is like a reframe as to thinking of yourself as a corporate branding and promotional company. Like in your head, you have to be like, I'm not a wood decor company. I'm not, that's not who I am. Like who I am is you still have your storefront retail, that kind of stuff. But like to reach out to corporate people, you have to learn how to talk to them in a way that they understand, because they'll look at the cribbage boards, they'll look at the coasters, they'll look at the charcuterie boards and be like, you can't help me. But you're sitting in front of, machinery that can like transform their brand.
Yeah.
Right. And so in your head, what I would think about is different packages. And part of that could be to include signage. It could include promotional items. And you just look at like a corporate branding package and the package. So like when you talk, and then you can have like, a $2, a $4, and a $6,000 package. Right. And for 2,000, this is what you get. For 4,000, you get this. For 6,000, you get this. And then it includes, X amount of tumblers, X amount of coasters, X amount of signage, and then one big sign up to a certain size. Okay, so now you've thought about the package and you're like, okay, who would best benefit from this? And then you can think about who are the customers that you've had the best results with. Who are the people that you absolutely love to work with? Give me an example of a corporate company that you were like, oh my God, if I could have only people like them. Give me an example.
Recently,
the type of company.
Yeah, I recently worked mortgage people, mortgage agents, and healthcare agents, because they're the ones with the big money to spend too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So mortgage people, I would literally go to Fiverr.com and scrape and ask, search for lead scraper and create a list of all of the mortgage people in Ontario. Because you just need the logo. That's it. You literally just need the logo and they can ship it you for forever.
Right.
And you make a list, name, email, phone number, contact, what have you. 1. 2 is I would friend them on Instagram, friend them on Facebook. Right. 3 is create content around the types of things that you can do for corporations.
Okay.
And I would go to them, literally take some of your marketing budget and pick maybe the top 50 or top 30 of the biggest ones and create a mini package for them and then mail it out.
Right.
Put together like a $500 budget and just mail it out, and then mail it. Or maybe you can send them a tumbler once, and then maybe you make a mini sign second, and then you just like send them, and then you send them something in the mail, you email, you text, you DM. If you did that and you targeted 40 to 50 people and you put together like $500 for a budget, you'd be booked out for the next year.
Right.
Guarantee it.
Yeah.
And if you put out the time and the money, because you'll have to buy the Yetis, and I'm sure you get good deals you get wholesale deals, right? So like
actually, I don't.
You don't? Okay, so you need to figure that out.
Yeti in Canada is a little bit, they're a little bit stricter on who they give deals to. So yeah.
Okay. So we'll figure that out, right? And then and so if you did that, that would be great. So that's one path.
Mm-hmm.
Is just like, but the second path would be to um or flip flop is literally serve every single customer business in your area.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you joined the Chamber of Commerce?
I have not. It is something that I think about, but also they usually meet when my store's open, so it's a little bit harder. So
Oh, it's fine because
yeah.
but they normally have like normally have like promotional things and emails and like
Mm-hmm.
what have you, right? That's one thing. The other honestly is I would so serve the people around you, but then make
Yeah.
an offer, right?
Okay.
And then the offer is, hey, uh, uh, community, I'm running a deal on any signs. If anybody wants a mock-up of what their signage or promotional package would look like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I would gladly do a design consultation for you. So I'm
Okay.
sure, like, look at the people on your block or a couple blocks away. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, I want to serve more of my community. Because the other thing too, Janice, like when you think about, because right now your products are in people's homes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have the satisfaction of them playing cribbage. But
Yep.
how cool would it be as if you drive around your neighborhood and you've made every single friggin' sign there? Wouldn't you feel like amazing?
Yeah. Yeah. I still
So
now what's funny enough is I still get for those welcome to our home sites because again they're still one of my biggest sellers. I in my neighborhood I know every single house that has them, and I'm like, oh, they have one, and I drive into a new neighborhood, and I'll spot them, and I get really excited, like ridiculously excited. Like if I'm driving, I'm like, oh my god, there's my sign. My husband's like, just drive, So it's like
so
it's
that's
so
what I would
exciting for
do.
me. So that's what I like. I love that kind of feeling of I have done something for somebody like in my area. So
For sure.
yeah.
So, you know, step one is put together a mini package, like the
Okay.
neighborhood package,
Yeah.
right? And it's, come up with three different versions of the sign, come up with three quantities of, the Yetis, the tumblers, or whatever else that you could do. So, like
Mhm.
three packages,
Yeah.
three different sizes, three different quantities. And just imagine if somebody says, oh, send me what you're talking about. And
Mhm.
then you give them a one sheet and it has the different examples on it.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? When you go
Yep.
to a website and it has like the three packages, that's what I need for you to do. You
Okay.
need to come up with three packages. And then to get your very, very first, because I think you can do this before the end of the month. I
Mhm.
absolutely believe that you can do this before the end of the month. You take those packages and whatever price you come up with,
Mhm.
make a list of businesses that you absolutely know. Like you can literally text them. You can
Yeah.
text the owner and just say, hey, I'm testing out a new corporate package. This is what I'm looking at. I'm willing to drop the price 40%
Mhm.
for the next three people to sign up.
Okay.
Let me know, and I will gladly mock up like something what it would look like.
Okay.
Can you do that for me? Can you
Yeah.
please do
Yeah.
that for me?
That's a great idea. Yes. Thank you. That's amazing.
You know what I mean? Because what you're doing is saying, listen, I'm testing out this new thing. You know me. I know you need this.
Mhm.
I'm only offering it for three people and I'm dropping the price 40%
Right.
because I want to get this. I want to test this out.
Mhm.
And if they say yes, then you got a product.
Right.
You have a product.
Right.
Is
Okay.
that helpful?
That's very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't
And
think of doing it like
you
that
put
just because
your employees to work behind you.
yeah, exactly. They're real noisy though, so they do talk a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I never
for sure,
thought of
for
doing
sure.
it that way just because I'm always doing the individual products. So like, the sign to social media sign talk, the table talkers and things like that. But to do it as like a whole package, I hadn't thought of doing that. So that's a really good idea. Thank you.
Cool, very cool. All right. Let me give everybody your website so that they can follow your work.
Yeah, so it's thenottycontessa.ca, and it's KNOTTY, not NAUGHTY. Instagram
Okay.
at thenottycontessa _, and Facebook, the Knotty Contessa. TikTok is the_Knotty_Contessa.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to getting your story with the Woodpreneur community. All right.
No problem. Thank you much, Steve. I really appreciate being on the show today.